And I'm by myself, ho. I don't need nobody no car back with me, bitch. I'm by myself. I always be by myself. Always by myself. That's all the thing. When you see me, you gonna see me by myself with that big old pistol that ain't got them pistol lights for. But bitch like you just wanna act like they wanna play with me, bitch. Your mama gonna be sitting around here writing out your obituary if you fuck with me, bitch, and you come my motherfucking way. That's on Pam, bitch. Your mammy gonna write out your obituary, bitch. Now play with me. Sit over there and listen to all that bullshit you want to them lies. Play with me. Watch what the fuck I do, bitch. And I ain't just talking, bitch. I know everything I'm saying, bitch. Your mammy gonna write your obituary out. You cheap ass hoe.
30 days before she died, Erica Reese went on Facebook Live and made a chilling promise. She adjusted her camera, looked directly into the lens, and spoke to an audience that was rapidly growing by the second. Her voice was loud, deliberate, and dripping with an anger that had been simmering for weeks. "Your mama gonna write your obituary." Thousands watched her say it. They dropped emojis, they shared the link, and they treated it like cheap digital entertainment. The comment section scrolled past in a blur of laughing faces and instigating remarks, egging her on as she aired out her deepest frustrations. But 30 days later, the joke became a horrific crime scene in Montgomery, Alabama. Erica Reese was dead, Katina Davis was in handcuffs, and 5 innocent children were left entirely without their mothers. It is easy to blame a toxic love triangle, but the real mystery behind this case is much darker than a simple dispute over a man. The central question that hangs over this entire tragedy is this: how did a public threat that thousands of people actively witnessed step off the screen and turn into a fatal reality? Nobody called the police, nobody stepped in to calm her down, and nobody tried to break the cycle. They just kept watching, until one night a single phone call set the execution in motion. To understand how 2 women reached a point of no return, you have to look closely at the digital trail they left behind. Erica Reese was 32 years old, a mother, and a resident of Montgomery. She was a woman with a life, a family, and a future, yet her reality became entirely consumed by an online war against 31-year-old Katina Davis. The dispute was intensely personal, fueled by a messy relationship overlap with a shared boyfriend. But instead of keeping the conflict behind closed doors, it was brought directly to the public square of social media. When Erica hit that broadcast button, she was not just venting to a friend, she was staging a performance for the internet. She waved her phone, pacing back and forth, exposing every detail of her rage. She made explicit references to weapons, confidently letting everyone know that she was armed and completely unafraid of a physical confrontation. Her emotional state was volatile, oscillating between intense anger and a strange, detached confidence. She believed she was dominant, completely unaware that she was drafting the blueprint for her own demise. The most terrifying aspect of the Facebook livestream was not just the words coming out of Erica's mouth, but the reaction of the crowd watching it unfold. In the modern digital age, we have become desensitized to conflict. We see arguments online every day, treating them as spectator sports. For the people tuning in to Erica's broadcast, this was better than reality television. It was raw, unfiltered, and deeply dramatic. Friends took sides, acquaintances shared the broadcast to local groups, and strangers chimed in to fuel the fire. The warning signs were not hidden in dark corners or encrypted text messages. They were broadcasted in high definition. Anyone with a smartphone could see that the tension was escalating to a dangerous level. The red flags were screaming, yet an entire community chose to treat a deadly threat as mere content. No one viewed Erica's anger as a cry for help or a dangerous behavioral shift. They viewed it as entertainment. This collective apathy created a false sense of security for everyone involved, making the escalation feel like a game where no one actually gets hurt. As the days passed, the digital ecosystem continued to apply pressure. When you make threats that large on a public forum, pride becomes a trap. Erica had painted herself into a corner. Thousands of people had heard her say what she would do to Katina, and the internet does not let people forget. The pressure to back up her words began to mount, turning a personal dispute into a ticking bomb. Every notification, every comment, and every shared clip served as a reminder of the violent promise she had made to her audience. Katina Davis heard the threats clearly. She knew exactly what Erica was saying about her, and she knew the entire city of Montgomery was watching to see how she would respond. The paranoia and anxiety must have been suffocating, knowing that a woman was publicly claiming she possessed a firearm and intended to use it. Instead of the situation cooling off over time, the algorithm kept the feud alive, constantly feeding the algorithms of local users and ensuring that the anger remained fresh, raw, and highly volatile. The tragedy of this case is rooted in how easily it could have been prevented. If just one person had taken the threat seriously, if a family member had intervened and taken Erica's phone away, or if a viewer had simply filed a detailed report with the local police department, the sequence of events could have been completely disrupted. But the crowd remained silent, serving as enablers to a looming disaster. They watched the train coming down the tracks, entirely content to see the collision as long as they had a front row seat. For weeks, the hostilities simmered, waiting for the perfect spark to ignite a catastrophe. The final days of April 2022 were a masterclass in tension, as both women went about their lives in Montgomery, hyper-aware of each other's presence, but not yet crossing paths in the physical world. The internet had created the motive, the audience had provided the fuel, and all that was left was the right time and place. The digital world had done its job of maximizing the conflict. Now, the real world was about to extract the ultimate price. The atmosphere was heavy with inevitability. On the weekend of May 1st, 2022, the digital war finally reached its boiling point. Erica was out, her anger still raw, still carrying the weight of the public promises she had made to her followers. She was looking for a confrontation, completely convinced that she was the one in control of the narrative, ready to face the woman she had spent weeks terrorizing online. Then somebody made a phone call and told Erica exactly where Katina was.
The most heartbreaking part of this tragedy isn't the violence that ended it, but how many doors were open for either woman to simply walk away. Every disaster has a turning point, a moment where a bad decision can either be corrected or pushed to the point of no return. In the spring of 2022, Erica Reese and Katina Davis were standing at that exact crossroads. The warning signs weren't quiet whispers. They were loud, public, and flashing red. Yet instead of de-escalating, every single choice made by the people involved served to tighten the knot around a looming catastrophe. At the center of this rapidly accelerating storm was a shared relationship, one man caught between two women. It is a human story as old as time, rooted in jealousy, rejection, and betrayal. But when intimacy is replaced by public competition, a private heartbreak mutates into a dangerous war of pride. This boyfriend wasn't just a partner, he became a prize to be won on a public stage. For Erica, backing down didn't just mean losing a relationship, it meant losing face in front of the thousands of people who had tuned into her life. The emotional stakes were no longer about love, they were about survival, ego, and dominance. As the social media conflict escalated day after day, the digital landscape transformed into a toxic echo chamber. This is where the tragedy truly takes a frustrating turn. In a healthy community, when two people begin to lose control, friends step in to pull them apart. They take the keys, they take the phone, or they call for help. But that is not what happened here. Instead of acting as a voice of reason, the social circles surrounding both women actively fed the fire. Friends didn't try to minimize the drama, they encouraged it. They liked the status updates, shared the screenshots, and whispered in both ears, ensuring that neither Erica nor Katina could find an exit ramp. Every single notification that pinged on their phones became a psychological push toward a physical confrontation. The audience constantly wondered why no one stopped this. Why didn't a best friend step in and say that a man isn't worth a life? Why didn't a family member recognize that the anger in those Facebook Live videos was spilling over into real-world paranoia? The answers are devastating because they reveal a harsh reality. People love a show, right up until the blood is real. The opportunities to avoid this nightmare were constant, presenting themselves every time a new post was drafted or a text message was sent. The situation kept getting worse because pride is a trap that is incredibly easy to walk into, but nearly impossible to escape. By treating the escalation as a spectator sport, the crowd stripped away the humanity of both women, reducing them to characters in an online feud. The tension in Montgomery was thick, a heavy weight hanging over everyone who knew them as the digital threats slowly began to map out a physical destination. The inevitability of the disaster was suffocating, a slow-motion car crash where everyone could see the impact coming, yet everyone refused to pull the emergency brake. Most true crime stories don't begin with the shooting. They begin with warning signs people ignore. If you're interested in the decisions, red flags, and consequences behind real cases like this, subscribe. That's exactly what we uncover here. Because when you ignore the red flags for too long, the universe eventually demands a price. On that fateful night, the final exit ramp was bypassed. The phone call had been made, the location had been dropped, and the digital war was finally intersecting with the physical world. The moment for logic, for clear thinking, and for maternal instinct had arrived. Instead of walking away, Erica grabbed the same gun she had shown online and headed to the club. The air inside the parking lot outside that Montgomery club was heavy, thick with a stillness that always seems to precede a catastrophe. It was the early morning hours of May 1st, 2022, a time when the rest of the city was asleep, completely unaware of the collision course two women were locked onto. A single phone call had shattered the night, slicing through the digital noise and anchoring the conflict into a physical coordinate. The digital playground was gone. The spectators were no longer behind screens, and the stakes had suddenly become terrifyingly real. When a vehicle pulled into the lot, its headlights cutting through the darkness, the atmosphere shifted instantly from a vibrant night out into something cold, dark, and deeply ominous. Erica Reese arrived with a purpose, her mind wrapped tightly around the public promises she had spent weeks broadcasting to the world. She parked her vehicle, kill-switched the engine, and let the silence settle in. The venue was bustling, music thumping from behind concrete walls, muffled bass vibrating through the asphalt beneath her tires. But Erica wasn't there for the music or the nightlife. She was there to close the loop on a feud that had consumed her entire reality. She sat in the driver's seat, the firearm she had previously paraded online resting heavily beside her. Every second that ticked by on the dashboard clock was a choice, a silent invitation from the universe to turn the key, reverse out of the lot, and drive home to her children. Instead, she waited. For 45 agonizing minutes, Erica Reese sat inside that car, watching the entrance of the club, watching the patrons stumble out into the cool night air, waiting for a single face to appear. 45 minutes is an eternity when you are sitting with a weapon. It is enough time for anger to cool, for reality to set in, and for the consequence gap to close. The audience watching this unfold in their minds is forced to ask a frustrating question. What was going through her mind during those 3,000 seconds of isolation? The tension during this waiting period didn't just simmer, it expanded, suffocating any lingering sense of logic or self-preservation. Outside the vehicle, the parking lot was alive with shifting dynamics as bystanders and acquaintances began to notice something was deeply wrong. Witnesses later recalled seeing the vehicle idling, noticing the intense focus of the woman inside. Friends of both women were present in the area, moving between cars, laughing, talking, completely wrapped up in the immediate aftermath of a night of partying. Some of them knew about the Facebook Live threats. Some had even commented on them just days prior. Now, seeing Erica's car parked in the shadows, a few individuals began to recognize the immediate danger. The whispers started spreading through the crowd, a low murmur of unease passing from person to person. This was the exact moment where the tragedy could have been frozen in place. There were multiple distinct opportunities for someone to step across the asphalt, knock on Erica's window, and pull her out of that headspace. Someone could have alerted the club security idling by the front doors. Someone could have quietly dialed emergency services, reporting an armed, volatile individual waiting outside the venue. But instead of treating the situation with the gravity it deserved, the surrounding circle froze. Some people even laughed it off, assuming it was just more dramatic posturing, another chapter in an entertaining online saga that would resolve itself by tomorrow morning. Katina Davis was eventually warned. Word reached her inside or just on the periphery of the venue that Erica was outside, waiting in the dark. The anxiety that had been building over the past month must have hit a frantic peak. Your rival is outside. She has publicly threatened your life, and she has been sitting in the dark for nearly an hour. The parking lot had become an arena, and the exits were shrinking.
Viewers tracking the timeline feel a sense of absolute entrapment here, realizing that every single person in that lot was participating in a countdown where the timer was about to hit 0. Then, the car door opened. Erica stepped out into the dim lighting of the parking lot, the firearm visible, her emotional state completely overflowing past the point of restraint. The crowd watched as she advanced, the space between the two women dissolving with every step. Words were exchanged, sharp and venomous, echoing off the sides of parked vehicles. It was no longer a simulation or a social media live stream. The physical confrontation was happening in real time, right in front of witnesses who could do nothing but watch. Can this still be stopped? That is the question that screams through the narrative as Erica raises the weapon. Total panic erupted across the lot as people scrambled for cover, diving behind car doors and flattening themselves against the ground. Katina stood her ground, facing the woman who had promised her mother would write an obituary. The decisions of the past 30 days, the instigating comments from friends, the shared relationship dispute, all of it condensed into a single horrific fraction of a second. Within seconds, gunshots rang out across the parking lot. By sunrise, one woman was dead and another was on her way to jail.
The echoes of gunfire faded, replaced by the piercing wails of sirens cutting through the early morning Montgomery air. The frantic crowd scattered, leaving behind an asphalt arena stained with irreversible regret. Within hours, the digital theater that thousands had treated as entertainment dissolved into a grim, unyielding reality. On May 1st, 2022, Montgomery police arrested 31-year-old Katina Davis, stripping away her freedom and placing her under a staggering bond reported at over $1.5 million. She was hit with a barrage of severe criminal charges: murder, first-degree assault, and second-degree assault. In an instant, the bravado displayed on social media evaporated, replaced by the cold steel of handcuffs and the heavy silence of a jail cell. But the legal system only measures the crime. It cannot measure the catastrophic emotional wake left behind. This tragedy didn't just impact 2 women, it completely shattered 2 families and tore a gaping hole through the lives of 5 innocent children. 5 children went to bed that weekend with mothers and woke up to a world where they were entirely on their own. They are the silent victims of this internet war, left to navigate a lifetime of birthdays, graduations, and quiet nights without the maternal warmth they deserved. The grief in this case is a heavy, living thing, anchored by the devastating realization that the people who should have been protecting these children were too busy defending their pride on a digital screen. When we step away from the flashing police lights, the story shifts from what happened to a much more frustrating question. Why did it happen? This was not a random act of violence, nor was it a sudden, unexplainable mystery. It was a tragedy written in advance, broadcasted in high definition, and actively fueled by the people who claimed to care about them. Every warning sign was a clear, unmistakable cry for intervention. Every missed opportunity to delete a post, block a number, or put down a weapon was a moment where life could have triumphed over death. The long-term consequences of this feud stretch far beyond the prison walls or the cemetery gates. They live in the profound, suffocating regret of a community that realized too late that their silence made them complicit. Every person who dropped a laughing emoji on those Facebook Live videos, every friend who whispered instigations into their ears, and every bystander who stood in that parking lot for 45 minutes without dialing 911 must now live with the weight of their inaction. They watched a disaster approach in slow motion and chose to treat it like a movie. Viewers are forced to reflect on how beautifully different this story could have ended. Imagine if a close friend had physically intercepted Erica before she grabbed her gun. Imagine if someone had called the authorities during that 45-minute wait, allowing flashing blue lights to disperse the tension before a single trigger could be pulled. One single different decision could have changed absolutely everything, preserving 2 lives and keeping 5 children safely in their mother's arms. Instead, pride dictated the outcome, and a toxic online culture extracted its absolute highest price. The finality of this case brings us right back to where the nightmare began, standing in front of a glowing phone screen, listening to a confident declaration of war. 30 days before her life was cut short, Erica Reese stood before her digital audience and confidently predicted the demise of her rival. Erica warned that somebody's mother would be writing an obituary. In the end, a mother did, just not the one Erica expected.